Now that we've left the GameCube Mario Party titles, it's time to head into the part of the franchise that, let's be completely real, most people assume that can't be emulated properly. Well, I'm here to tell you that yes, it can't be emulated properly whatsoever, but that isn't going to stop me, the guy who delivers actually good content. And so, in my attempts to emulate a Wii Remote with an Xbox controller, constantly forgetting what the button mappings I chose were, and having to add new keybinds in the middle of recording, as well as being under the influence of COVID-19, you see how dedicated I am yet, I started off for the strangest and most difficult Mario Party yet. Not so much in the AI's part, however, because they're rather easy, but rather in the gameplay itself. But let's see if I can survive at all by winning Mario Party 8 on the hardest board and AI. Before we begin, we gotta do some explaining because oh my god, this game is very different compared to other entries into the series. But let's get the elephant out of the room, that this script, this video, and pretty much all of its contents are being made while I have COVID. Legitimately, so don't yell at me if I sound kind of weird. So anyway, here's a few pointers. There is no chance time in this game, like, at all. Apparently the boards are also really big this time around, as you're going to see a bit later on. We're also using candies this time, which are basically the same as orbs, except you can't place them, so think of it more like Mario Party 3's items, if you want to think about it that way. I'm also going to show you my button mappings, since I'm playing on an Xbox controller for this, which is painful, by the way. Normally, you wouldn't, show this kind of stuff, but, let's be real, I don't really care at this point. So, these are the mappings, both for main controls as well as motion controls, so you can copy these if you so wish. Also note that this game does not use a nunchuck, and this video doesn't use one, primarily because it's basically impossible to emulate one, especially on a controller of this kind. Anyways, the same kind of rules apply. There is no special items and or benefits, we'll only be doing a 20-turn game, and our characters are going to be staying the same. I will be Mario, because of course, and the AIs will be Peach, Wario, and Waluigi. We're going to be playing on Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, and that is for a few reasons. The primary reason in this case is because, well, coins basically just don't matter on this board. You're probably wondering, well, why do coins not matter? The main reason is that there's only actually 2 star spots on this board. One is on this lucky space, which takes you to an island to get a free star from a chest, and the other is at the opposite end of the board where Captain Goomba awaits for you to get a free star. And speaking of this board is essentially just one straight line. No turns, no other paths, just one straight path. Think of this kind of like Pagoda Peak from Mario Party 7 if it wasn't just like a mountain, it was just like a straight line. There is dolphins that, once you pay them, you can take them up further up the path. Then there's also shops and happening spaces that can either help you or send you back to start. It's a board that is basically just a gimmick of get to the top and back as fast as possible, and it's filled with a lot of chaos. So with that, it's now time to begin and see if motion controls are going to be the death of me.
Hold it up here.
On turn 1, I started off strong with a whopping 9. Alright, cool. People get some candies, so I guess that's cool too. And then Wall rolls an insane 9. He uses the dolphin transport and lands on the lucky space to get sent to an island to get a free star. Jesus, we're setting the bar that high already? Like, good lord. Our first minigame then, Treacherous Tightrope, was, you know, but since... let's just say that this minigame had certain controls that I hadn't even mapped yet, so I had to sit there and map controls on the spot, and the controls that I ended up mapping didn't actually work, so I ended up losing immediately. The game's already setting the bar pretty low already, so I have very low hopes for what's about to come. On turn 2, I roll an insane 2 and lose some money. Alright, cool. Peach uses a candy and rolls a pretty insane 14. She spends some money to buy a double dice, or double candy, whatever they call it, and that's pretty much about it. Wad then uses his triple dice and rolls a pretty intense and honestly kind of insane 18. He scores his first star of the game shortly after. He then spends all of his money on a rock. Okay, cool. He then lands on this happening space and then gets thrown several spaces. Nice. Our next minigame then, Bumper Balloons, was very similar to the last game, but instead uses the infamous use the bumpers to steer. And yeah, that didn't really go so well. I also didn't realize that we were on Team Red, because remember, this game was recorded when I had COVID, so I mean, come on, at least give me some pity. On turn 3, I rolled a whopping 10 and choose to buy a double dice, and then land on DK. I, for some reason, have to shake the, quote, Wii Remote to get some coins, and I am getting 25, so it's actually pretty worth it. Wario then spends his money to get a duel capsule, or candy, whatever it's called. Okay, that's cool. Peach then rolls up 3, spends some money, and rides on a dolphin. Then Wah, for whatever reason, becomes a rock for some reason, and rolls a 2. It's kind of sad. Our next minigame then, Snow Way Out, was actually probably the first simple minigame. Although I want to argue that I don't think you're supposed to stay on this ice for too long, otherwise you freeze. Sadly, I lost, although I never bothered to think that I should practice these games before playing them, so that's a bit of a screw up on my part. But remember, I had COVID, so at least give me some pity. On turn 4, I used my double dice in an effort to make some distance. I ended up rolling a 7, landing on the lucky space to head for a free star. I guess I'll gladly take that, I guess. The rest of the turn was pretty uneventful. Our next minigame then, Rudder Madness, was, you guessed it, a game where the remote has to be standing up. But you're probably wondering, how in the actual crap do I do that with an Xbox controller? Simple. You don't. I just ended up finding a button that somehow worked, and I said my prayers. And, well, I lost. Now on turn 5, I rolled a clinically insane 3. Wario then rolls a 6, and it gets thrown several spaces. Peach then rolls a 9, and scores her first star of the game. The rest of the turn was pretty uneventful. Sorry, Wah. Our next minigame then, Bob-Bombs Away, was another simple minigame. It was basically just dunk on the one and laugh about it. I ended up getting Wario after a few attempts and finally brought home a victory. On turn 6, I roll a pretty insane 3. I score my first star of the game, finally, taking first place. The rest of this turn was, unfortunately, uneventful. Our next minigame is a battle minigame, with a measly 20 coins on the line in the game Saucer Swarm. Which, although it might look simple, it's basically just shoot crap and see what happens. I ended up losing by a small margin, because, well, at this point, let's just blame COVID. We blame COVID, nothing bad will happen, right? On turn 7, I rolled a massive 9, and choose to travel using the dolphin. Remember that I was more focused on stars, because coins at this point in this map were only specifically used mainly for candies and duels, I guess. Wario then rolls a 8, and lands on Bowser. He makes him dance, and he loses some money in the process. Okay, cool. Peach then rolls up 5, and overshoots the lucky space. Yeah, you ain't winning again, Peach. Yep, suck it. Wah then rolls up 3, and obtains his second star, regaining the lead. Our next minigame then, Chomp Rope, that's funny, was the famous, okay, so you gotta swing it charade. But, you know, since the swing and or jump motion was bounded to the D-pad, I lost instantly, because of course I did. On turn 8, I choose to eat the swamp candy, and then I proceed to roll a 1 and lose some money. Cool. Peach then uses a vampire candy and proceeds to rob everyone of 5 coins, making this the best 15 seconds ever wasted in Mario Party 8. She then pays to ride the dolphin, lands on a happening space, and gets a free candy. Wah then rolls a massive 9 and loses some money. Our next minigame then, grabbing gold, was, well, it was kind of stupid because of the real. I'm emulating a Wii Remote, it basically just sucks. So I literally just started mashing every single button on the controller, and to my surprise, it actually worked. On turn 9, I rolled a 3. Oh my god, I'll get the star someday. Wario then uses his duel candy, and him and Peach are gonna have a duel in Paint Misbehavin'. It was actually a pretty close duel at the start, but unfortunately Peach ended up pulling it out. Peach would then steal some of Wario's money. I mean, at least Wario got a free candy, I guess? I don't know. Peach then rolls a whopping 5 and loses some money. Alright, cool. Wah then blows all of his money on a rock. Because he's poor? I don't really know what the point. Our next minigame then, Power Trip, was simple in its movement. But good lord, this hovercraft moves surprisingly quick. Like, Jesus. I ended up losing because this thing moves too fast. Like, good lord, Nintendo. On turn 10, I finally roll a 6 and get my second star of the game, regaining the lead once more. Wario then, for whatever reason, because a giant fat ball, rolls a 3 and nothing happens. Peach then rolls a 6 and secures her second star of the game, now taking the lead again, I think. Our next minigame then, Lean Mean Ravine, was simple in of itself, although I will admit that the tilting was a kinda weird. Me and Wario almost had this, but we ended up losing. On turn 11, I made the bold choice to use my Springo candy, with the intent to land with Wario for a chance at the star. and instead I ended up getting Peach and moving one space behind me. Thanks, game. Really cool. I then choose to ride the dolphin, and that's pretty much about it. Wario then rolls a 7 and secures his first star of the game. Congratulations, Wario. You're doing good. He then lands on a happening space and then gets thrown literally 3 spaces in front of him. Nice. Peach then uses her double dice and rolls a 10. She then uses the dolphin, buys a triple dice, and that's pretty much about it. Wah then rolls a pretty insane 10. He buys a bolo candy, and that's also pretty much about it. Our next minigame then, Mario Matrix, was basically just point and click and light up the panels. I actually ended up winning this one, so I'm not going to complain one bit.
Mario's the winner!
On turn 12, I take the dolphin, cause stars, bro? Wario then rolls a 10, and then takes the dolphin, and then proceeds to take the second dolphin, and lands on a happening space to not get candy because he's full. Cool. Peach then uses her triple dice and rolls a pretty insane 18, which was fine, we'll call it. Wah then rolls a pretty nuts 10, and nothing happened. Our next minigame then, Flip the Chimp, was strange because you would think that if it means flip the monkey left and right, then I'd press the D-pad left and right, 'cause that's how it's programmed, right? No, I actually ended up having to press up and down to flip the monkey. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure as to how this programming works, but either way I lost. Let's just get back to the point. On turn 13, I rolled an insane 2. God dang it. Wario then uses his bolo candy, rolls a 7, steals my money apparently, and then gets his second star of the game, putting him into first place. Peach then uses that blow-away candy and sends me straight back to start. Thanks, Peach. And then, as the killing blow, Wah then uses his vampire candy and steals 10 coins from everybody. So we basically learned that this turn I got wrecked by pretty much everybody in some kind of fashion. Our next minigame then, at the Chop Wash, was, for me at least, is actually a button mashing game because the shake button, or at least shaking the Wii Remote in this case, was mapped to the left trigger. For once, I actually ended up deciding to practice just to make sure I was pressing the right button, and for this time forward, I actually ended up practicing pretty much every minigame after this. So, now that I actually know what I'm doing, let's do this. So, I ended up winning, because button mashing is my endgame.
Mario's the winner!
On turn 14, I then rolled a pretty impressive 8, and ride the dolphin. Wario then uses his triple dice, rolls a pretty insane and kinda wild 14. He ends up using both dolphins to get as far up the path as he can. Peach then rolls a whopping 10, and scores her third star of the game, taking first place again. And realizing that, oh crap, she just rolled a 10, she will actually miss the lucky space by 1 when she returns. Yeah, suck it, Peach. Wa then turns into a rock and then proceeds to smash Wario. Alright, cool. Our next minigame then is a battle minigame, but this time it's a 51 coins are up for the grabs. Yep, that was a weird sentence. In the game, Glacial Meltdown, which was honestly about as simple as it gets. I ended up holding out pretty strong in this simple minigame and pulled out a well-deserved victory.
Mario's the winner! Ho-ho!
On turn 15, I ended up using my duelo candy, and I made the pretty bold and brave choice to duel Peach in the game Cosmic Slalom. It's another one of those rotate with the motion control ones, but to be honest, after doing a practice round to familiarize myself, something that I should have been doing at the start, I ended up taking the win. Shockingly.
Mario's the winner!
I ended up taking one of Peach's stars after the minigame, which actually worked probably really well. I could have taken 2, but let's be real, I'll deal with what I get. Therefore, I ended up getting the lead from this. Anyways, Wario would then land on another happening space. See a trend here? Getting some free loot in the form of a rock. Why are we dealing rocks? Seriously. Peach then uses her Springo candy to land on Wa, which actually really helped her out, as she literally regains the star she just lost, putting her back into second place with 3 stars. Wa then rolls and gets his third star of the game, taking him to first place. Our next minigame then, Punch a Bunch, yeah, that's a mouthful, was interesting as well, although it never actually says that you can power up your punch, because you definitely can, but it doesn't, you can, but it doesn't actually say you can. So therefore, I was lied to, and I lost because Nintendo didn't put a very important gameplay feature in the controls and rules. I'm looking at you, Nintendo. Turn 16 marked the last 5 turns, and with it, now money appears on every space for some reason, and Wario then gets a Duelo candy, because he's in last, of course. Anyways, I then start my turn by rolling a massive 9, and choose to not take the dolphin, as I actually want, items. I then buy a triple dice for 20 coins, because, there's coins on the board, so why wouldn't you buy something? Wario then takes the flight of shame as he lands on a happening space and then gets sent back to start. I'm so sorry, Wario. That's gotta suck. Peach then rolls up 5 and gets a free Springo candy. Alright, cool. Wa then rolls up 7 and buys a Duelo candy. That'll be used shortly later. Our next minigame then, Catastrophe, was simple for being a motion control game, surprisingly. I ended up doing a practice run to get used to it, but once I did, I ended up taking the win.
Woohoo! Mario's the winner!
On turn 17, I used that triple dice I bought, and I rolled an absolutely insane 26. I collected an insane amount of coins on my way, and collected my 4th star of the game, now building my lead.
I got a star!
However, it would be shortly after that Wario decided to use that duel candy, and now we're gonna have a duel. In the game, I think it's Eye on the Prize? I'm gonna hope that's what it's called. Which, it basically was just tilt to make the colors go into the right jars. I'm surprisingly really good at this game, which is also implying that I'm good at Tetris, which I'm not, but anyway. It was even funnier because for the last 3 seconds of this game, I essentially wasn't even playing the game, and yet I still won. So in this case, this is how you win a minigame, by almost doing absolutely nothing.
Woohoo! Mario's the winner!
In the end, I only ended up stealing a measly 5 points from Wario, but I mean, hey, it could have gone a lot worse, let's be real. Wa then uses his duel candy, aiming to duel Peach in the game Breakneck Building. It was actually a pretty close race between the two, but Peach would end up taking the win. And also stealing 5 points from Wa, so now they're tied. Okay, I guess. I don't really know. Our next proper minigame then would be Crank to Rank, involving swinging. So, therefore, I did the famous Mario Party trick of putting your finger in your shirt and moving your finger over the D-pad repetitively in a circular motion. And I know it's cheating, but I ended up taking the victory by what looked like millimeters, I'm going to be completely honest. On turn 18, I rolled up 6 and decided to take this dolphin. And guess what? I landed on the lucky space. Let's go! Wario then rolls up 3. I'm sorry, man. Peach then rolls a whopping 9, and also lands on the lucky space. I guess I'm not alone on this island, but why do I gotta be on this island with the one person who's caused me the most grief in this series? Like, good lord. Wah then rolls at 8, and rides a dolphin. Alright, cool. Our next minigame then, Grabby Gridiron, was simple, but Jesus Christ, those footballs move incredibly fast. We ended up losing, but credit where it's due. I'll at least give credit that this minigame is a pretty cool idea. On turn 19, I rolled a pretty insane 8 and scored my 5th star of the game, now continuing to build my lead even further. I then choose to ride the dolphin, aiming to make a break for a 6th star. Wario then rolls a whopping 2. I'm sorry again. Good roll, Peach. Wah then rolls a pretty impressive 7 and scores his 4th star of the game, now taking 2nd place. Our next minigame then, Sick and Twisted, that sounds like a band name, is your basic platformer. Yet I ended up losing the basic platformer because I assumed that in this generation of Mario that you'd be able to jump on bullet bills, because, you know, most Mario games around this time kind of had that thing, but apparently not this one. Turn 20 marked the final turn, and with bonus stars completely unknown at this moment, I decided to use my candy and rolled a whopping 6. Alright, cool. Wario then rolls a 10. Alright, that's cool. Peach rolls... Get wrecked, woman! Wah then rolls a 10. Alright, cool. Our final minigame, then, is Lava or Leave 'em. Similar to Glacial Meltdown from earlier, but without the punching, and you just can't get hit by Potaboos. Alright, pretty cool. I ended up taking the win in this game. And with that, it's time to get to the completely random, and let's be honest, completely unknown bonuses.
Woohoo! Mario's the winner!
Now, a brief reminder that the bonus stars in this game are pretty similar to that of Mario Party 7. So if you've at least played 7, then the stars here should be pretty similar. I at least knew that Wah couldn't get 2 of these bonus stars, otherwise I'd lose. Unless if I was to get 1 of them and he was to get 2, as an example. We begin with the green star, in this case being the happening or action star. And this one would go to Wario, I mean that's obvious. The next star was the shopping star, given to whoever spent the most coins at a shop. In this case, that would go to Wah. And finally, the red star, for whoever landed on the most red spaces, which went to Wah and me. So therefore, as I mentioned earlier, that can only mean one thing. Yes, I actually won, and it kind of shocked me as well, knowing that this game somehow works with this emulation controller, and the fact that I still won is impressive. Let's be real here, I'm not going to complain, and neither should you, because I beat the hardest AI with really crappy controls. It's nothing compared to a Wii Remote, being sick with COVID and making this video. And honestly, the results here show that I probably would have won regardless, since I also had the minigame, candy usage, and coin star in the bag, so I guarantee you that I would have won regardless. It was a close game, but let's be real, COVID here can't even stop me. Let's get it! To conclude, Mario Party 8 definitely is a treat to play, especially for this series. Although emulating this game with something that isn't a Wii Remote, being under the influence of COVID, I mean let's be real, I was very light when I was doing this, and having to literally add in button mappings and having to look at button mappings, mid-recording, is something that I wish I didn't have to do. And honestly, the one thing that this video has done is make me want to go out and purchase a disc copy of Mario Party 8 to play it on its original console, because I'd rather actually play it how it's meant to be played instead of doing this. This was the last of the old school Mario Parties. That was before Mario Party 9 came in, would be released years later, that would change the entire series forever. However, this is not the last time that I'm going to have to endure motion controls for this series. Because now, there is only one more episode left, and that is Mario Party 9. The one game in the series that I have played probably the most on its original console, and the one that I have owned first, and the one that I have definitely played the most of, regardless if it's emulation or not. So, until then, my name is PandaPowerSauce, remember to stay saucy, and I'll see you next time for the final episode of the series in Mario Party 9. Later!